Good afternoon. This is our knowledge series of the webinar, and we welcome you for this knowledge series. Of course, today when we are starting this webinar on the GST, two bad things which has happened. One is we have lost yesterday one of the greatest artist, actor, Irfan Khan, and more today the bad news has come that we have lost Rishi Kapoor, who was the evergreen hero and of course the hero of our time. Let us pay tribute to both of them for keeping silence of 2 minutes and offering them our tribute. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This webinar, knowledge series of webinar we started, first part of the 6 lectures we have taken the very immediate subjects which it was very important for everybody to act on. And thereafter we thought that is let us recapitulate in the areas where we can reduce the cost, we can take the benefit, and we can be a compliant of the tax. So we thought that we will continue this knowledge series. Last 2 days, you might have heard my colleague, Mr. Manoj Malpani, CA Manoj Malpani. He talked on customs. These 2 days, today and tomorrow, I will be talking on GST. That is the one nation, one tax, which is well worth. We are talking from, we are listening from years together. It has come the reality, and rather we have accepted too. And thereafter, we will be talking on the pricing, transfer pricing on the, as per income tax, as per customs, and as per GST. All 3 acts will be covering for the valuation, and that will be done by my colleague, CA Preeti Kulkarni. The history of the GST, if I remember, it started way back in 2005 when the Kelkar committee has taken the reform. It was the form for reform, and Kelkar committee vehemently recommended to have the single tax and to reduce and to eliminate the multiple tax system. And thereafter, in 2009, when the Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister, he said that will continue from 2010. Constitutional amendment was also talked on, but that time it was opposed because that was having a inherent issues. And then when NDA government has again joined, the same task force, which was the Empower Committee of the Finance Minister, was the part of that, it continued, and it was determined to start the GST. First discussion paper on the GST was released in 2009-10, and after 2009-10, the theories of the whole of this of world, or rather of all of us, or industry and trade, as talking about how that GST will come along. We have seen a lot of dreams in GST, because something what happens is man proposes and God disposes. It has happened that it was nice system which was proposed, but technology has disposed, and therefore we have got today the GST in the present form, which is in the going to be implemented in the reality in the phased manner. Thereafter, constitutional amendment was made, and after constitutional amendment, the major changes which was made, which was rather very good, and it was difficult for us again to go back to the old regime for whatever the difficulties we may have. because ultimately, even though earlier and today we compare, we are much better off than that of earlier. And ultimately, it was the ultimatum given by the Honorable Prime Minister to start it from the 1st July. And due to the less preparedness either by the government or by the industry or by the trade or by the government bureaucrats who are going to implement this GST, we started implementing of the GST. With this background, let us start and look back what were the issues and now where we are. Pre-GST, I'll just not take much of the time because now it is no relevance to us, but why the need of the GST was there, that even from one state to another state, there were any movement of goods. We were talking about in my session earlier, WTO was talking about the free trade of the goods and services across the world. Whereas in India itself, it was not the free trade. The goods were getting moved against the road permits, against the various restrictions, different rate of tax, multiple tax and multiple compliances under the multiple taxes of the state government as well as central government. And therefore, not only the compliance cost was very high. Valuation methods also were different, taxing, that is the taxing methods also were different. There was a different adjudication systems. For sales tax, there was the completely different. For service tax and excise, there were the completely different. And again, for the different state tax, the different mechanism used to be there. Till the time 1944, from the excise when it started, if I look back the journey of excise or journey of a service tax or a journey of a sales tax or a commercial taxes, even from the date when they have started with till the ended, there was a lot of confusion whether restaurant service is goods or service, whether works contract is the goods or service, whether the right to use is the goods or service, whether the software is the goods or service. All those disputes were there, and all the disputes, number of litigations were there. The same part was getting included in part of valuation of excise and service tax. So there was a multiplicity of the taxes, and mainly the cascading effect of tax was very high. Consumer were getting lost into that, and consumer were bearing those losses of cascading effect of the taxes. I'll just recapitulate only for the purpose of understanding of the GST, why it was the need of a GST. Even though I know today we are going through every day the problems of the GST every day, but the legacy of so many years, of course, is going to take time to stabilize it. But I will say, had technology might have been placed, it might have been stabilized in 1 year itself. Unfortunately, technology could not cope up with what is the requirement of the government or the stakeholders. They underestimated the stakeholders. Taxable event in excise, it was the manufacturer, and the concept of deemed manufacturer was there. Different types of valuation it was there, whether the production based capacity, whether the transaction value, whether the MRP. Even yesterday in the custom, there was one question on the MRP because that is what was embedded in the mind. Different exemptions, whether it's absolute or conditional, and all again the number of exemption zone used to be there because of the improvement of that is the back. Uttarachal, Himachal Pradesh, we talk about for backward states, which we wanted to make them better. Issue of service tax was there. Event was rendering and the provisioning of service. Again, from 2004, we started with the 3 services and ended with the 2012. Almost everything was included in the negative list of services. Transactions involving goods and services, it was the multiplicity, somewhere it was goods, somewhere it was service, and the litigations were there. Different valuations, different abatement rates, different tax rates, and sales tax itself was handled differently. Road permits was the most bottleneck. Collection of C form, F form used to be a bottleneck. Taxable event used to be on the sale of goods. Different threshold limit in different states, different VAT rates in different rates, different forms, different returns. So 29 states and 29 rules and 29 act. All those complexities Indian trade was bearing it. To make it simple, what was thought by Kerala committee that there will be only one nation, one tax, free movement of goods and services, less of forms and less of paperwork. That was one of the Bible of generation of the GST. I'll only say when GST was there, which are the taxes of the central taxes were subsumed. I'm not going to take that much time because you are already acquainted with that. Similarly of the state taxes. I'm only just summing up so that we brush on and then we go on and take up the new laws and new act. And even after 2 years, we are going to take the practical cases. We are facing it. Even after 2 years, we are not clear on various aspects which we will be dealing with. So what is the scope of a GST? First thing is scope of GST. We start with it was applicable to all the states, including Jammu and Kashmir. Of course, after 370, all the laws are applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. But in spite of GST, in spite of 370 was in existence, Jammu and Kashmir was the last state to give the consent, and it has also come in the scope of GST. So on all the supply of goods and services were covered except certain sin goods, like alcoholic beverages for human consumption. Nowadays, last 23rd March onward, I think everybody might have forgotten the word of alcoholic beverages for human consumption. So everybody has nearly traveled in GST because the beverages are still under central excise, state excise, rather not central excise, sorry, it is under the state excise. That is still continued, but because state is losing the revenue in the lockdown period, because all wine shops and bars are closed. Petroleum product, one thing was there, that is when this constitutional amendment was made to introduce the GST, one of the best things which has happened, they said instead of making a constitutional amendment in India, it's very difficult time. Of course, that will continue and he will get the 3/4 or 2/3 majority all the time. But it was included as a foresightness that petroleum product, it will be notified afterwards. So till the time petroleum products is still continued under the old tax regime, that is excise and VAT regime. Central excise and VAT regime. Tobacco, both the taxes are applicable because these are the seen goods. So GST is also applicable and central excise duty is also applicable on tobacco. All industrial incentives which was there for the backward zone have been converted into cash subsidy, which is we call now budgetary support. Now in most of the state, you might have seen the budgetary support system is also getting completed. Special industrial area scheme to be converted into the investment base through their validity period and grandfathering of their exemption by way of a direct transfer of cash. So no exemption, Raj. You might be aware, exemption and exemption by way of return in Sikkim, in Jammu and Kashmir, in Kutch, what has happened? Now Supreme Court, in the case of VVF, have turned down all the High Court decisions. Common list, there will be a common list. One of the best things which has happened is state government is duty bound to have the same rates. In VAT regime also, if you recall, I'm a too oldie person, so I will recall all my old experiences. In 1995, sales tax was converted into the VAT, with the whole object that all the state government, there will be a common list of exemption. But there was not the constitutional amendment thereto at that time. Therefore, every state afterwards have changed their rates as well as this one. Therefore, success of VAT has lost in 2003 itself. Rather, it was introduced also late by all the state governments. So now all the states have got the same rate for central tax and state tax. Transactions which are below the threshold limit, it was also accepted that common man, small traders, small businessmen, small service providers will have to be exempted from the tax compliances, mainly who are dealing with the retailers. They are not going to be losers, but at least they will be beneficial by way of giving them, then threshold limit was made for the applicable to them. So let's talk where the GST is applicable, where the scope is. It is applicable to all India, whole of the India, including of water, subbed and subsoil, underlying water, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone and other maritime zones. Yesterday, day before yesterday, Mr. Manoj has nicely explained you what is that continental shelf, what is the economic shelf and all. I will not repeat that. So it is applicable to whole of the India. So GST is one nation, one tax. That is the reason we call it. Let's see one of the best thing why GST is going to be better. The way foresightedness has been shown in the constitutional amendment. Article 279A was inserted where it has constituted of a GST council. And who will be the member of that GST council? Will be the Union Finance Minister, will be always the chairman of this. All state finance ministers or their nominated state finance ministers will be the member of that. And members will choose the vice chairman. That will be the constitution of GST council. Even the quorum of meeting is 1/2 of the total members. Today we have 31 states, that is including union territories. And so almost 32 members, so 16 members will be the quorum. And the best way of this, every decision will be taken, whether the amendment is required to be taken, either the central or state. It has to be recommended by the GST Council. So without recommendation of GST Council, neither central government nor state government can make any changes in the law. And that is the reason this will always remain one nation, one tax, in spite of any issues or state governments or political differences may happen. And the majority is considered as a 3/4 majority. So decision will be taken by the 3/4 majority. And it's not that central government is only one, so state government will have the more empowerment. No. They have given the voting right to the central government will be the 1/3. And total voting right of all the state governments will be the 2/3. And with this 3/4 majority has to be there. So no state governments in totality or no central government in totality can impose any of those which is not suitable to any other states or any other this one. So this is the best combination. One of the best provision in this constitutional amendment is this, and that is the reason I have no iota of doubt that one nation, one tax will remain, and this generation and generation to come will be benefited by this, because by that time, next 1 year of time, GST will be stabilized. And the powers of recommendation is decide taxes, we decide surcharges, whether it should be exempted or not exempted, decide the laws, decide the rules, decide the threshold limit of exemption, decide the rates or the band of rates, decide. Now you might have seen in Kerala last year there was the flood, and there may be the possibility that that is the reason cess was introduced only for the state transfers in state supply within the state in Kerala. Now I will not be surprised for mobilizing the revenue for COVID. One more tax may come as a cess on the cess of COVID cess or corona cess. And there will be a special provisions of those all backward states so that their threshold limit they can decide, not other rules and any other matters which council feels to decide for the betterment in the interest of the public. And government has got all the powers, rather I will put it, GST council has got all the powers to recommend in the public interest, and that is the reason you might have seen number of whatever the decisions has been taken in the GST council meeting. All these recommendation, all those notifications which has come, which was resolving to the public grievances, resolving the public issues. And even though 3/4 majority was required, all the decisions has been taken unanimous, and that is the one reason I respect, salute late Arun Jaitley. He has taken in the consultative mode to all the state, in spite of all the political differences, whether it's the West Bengal, whether it's the Kerala, whether it's the Congress-based states, NDA, that is the Mr. Arun Jaitley, he has ensured that the good tradition he has made of all the decisions unanimously. Now, this was the background of the GST. I will not talk on and I'll come on directly on the subject. Now, when we understand the GST, we have to go through and understand all those things. Central Goods and Service Tax Act 2017, which is the mother act, which talks about all the provisions, and similarly, all identical provisions, repeat, identical provisions are there in the State Goods and Service Tax, parallel, no change. Integrated and Goods and Service Tax is what was the necessity to make that, because what should be considered as the interstate sale? What should be considered as the exports, or what should be considered in the international trade? How the compensation should be given, because one of the promise which was given to the all state governments that it will be considered as a constant growth of a 14% in the revenue of each state over the whatever the amount of the baseline it was fixed. And whatever the state government is going to earn from the GST, if there is a loss, that will be compensated by the central government for 5 years return guarantee. And that is the reason unanimous decision was possible. And that is the reason why some of the goods are also carrying the compensation cess. So IGST, Central Goods and Service Tax, and State Goods and Service Tax Act. These are the three acts, and the rules are IGST rules, CGST rules, and Compensation Cess Act. So these are the basic act and rules, and only this much act, rather I will put it, the measure of the act, you can read CGST and IGST and read CGST rules. You will know almost 99% of the provisions of the act and rules in totality. Though all of you are aware, I'll not repeat that. GST in intrastate and interstate. What was the necessary? We were the federal country, and there were the different models in the different countries for taking and safeguarding their rights, which has been provided under the Constitution. And therefore, whenever interstate movements were there, interstate tax will be applicable, that is called as IGST. IGST will be equal to the state GST and CGST. No change. And intrastate, all the supply intrastate, we will cover what is intrastate and what is interstate just after 2 minutes. For intrastate and this, CGST and SGST will be levied. Wherever state is not there and union territory is there, it is the union territory GST. So the broad constituents of the GST is CGST, SGST and IGST in short. Now who is liable to pay? And that is the reason certain important definition we will be talking about. It covers almost every entity. So any person who supplies the goods or services. So the tax liability is on the person who supplies. Now who is the person? Individual, HUF, company, firm, LLP, AOP, body of individuals, that is all joint ventures also will come into that, whether incorporated or not in India or outside India. If anybody is supplying in India, from India, whether he has the branch in India or not, he has to take the GST registration. Let's say XYZ company in the China do not have a branch in India. They may have the license office only, but if they are supplying from India, they will have to take the separate registrations. Corporation established under any state, central and provincial act. So all the local bodies who will also be supplying the goods or services, except for providing the sovereign duties, will have to take they are liable to pay. Any body corporate incorporated or under any law by the country outside, I have explained this. Cooperative societies, local authorities, central government, state government, society, trust, or any artificial persons. So any person, if he is supplying the goods and crossing the threshold limit, he is liable to pay the tax. Now what is the interstate? As interstate we talk on, very commonly understood when the goods or supplies are moved from one state to another state. So supplies of goods and or services in course of interstate trade or a commerce. So when supplier of goods and place of supply, so location of supply. So where is the location of supplier? We'll talk on that definition again. And the place of supplier in two different states or two different union territories, or state and union territories, that supply will be counted as an interstate supply. Supply of goods imported in territory of water till they cross the custom frontier of India. Yesterday you might have seen Manoj has explained day before yesterday what is the custom frontier. They talk on port, public bonded warehouses, CAPs, ICD, private bonded warehouses, all those till it doesn't cross custom frontier, whatever the supply is made there from is considered as an interstate. Now let us take an example here. Let's take a case that goods have been imported and you are kept in the private bonded warehouse or a ICD or a CFS, and then you sell in that private bonded warehouse itself, you supply the goods, change the title, then what will be applicable is IGST, even though my ICD is located in Pimpri, Pune, and I am supplying to Pune. Still, it would be considered as an interstate supply, because after custom barrier, they will become whether it's an intrastate or interstate. But before that, whenever it's supplied from the custom in the custom barrier, it will be considered as a IGST. That is the interstate supply. Similarly, supply of services imported in India will be considered as an interstate supply. Supply of goods or services or both. When supplier is located in India and place of supply is outside India, then also it is an interstate supply. Or when you are supplying to the SEZ, let us take a case, you are in Pune and you are supplying to the SEZ of a Mandri State Farm in Pune, or Evan Kharadi in the Pune, or Infosys in a Pune, then it is an interstate supply. And number of suppliers, number of traders, number of dealers, number of service providers have made a blunder that they were not having a threshold limit, and they have supplied to the SEZ, assuming that it is an intrastate supply. And that is the reason all of their supplies, irrespective of threshold limit, will become taxable in the taxable territory, not being an intrastate. So whatever is supplied in the taxable territory, that is in India, which is not the interstate, or sorry, which is not the intrastate, will be considered as a interstate always. So if it is not the intrastate, it is not covered under the definition of intrastate, then all such supplies will be treated as an interstate and IGST is applicable. Why I'm talking this as a more empathically, and I will take more examples time to time. Even after 2 years, there are more than 5% cases are there, and on an average that people are charging wrong GST, that is, if they treat as an intrastate supply as against interstate supply and vice versa. That is the reason when you are having that, you will have the problems of the payment liability. Section 8 of the IGST bill, or rather IGST Act. What is intrastate? Location of a supplier and a place of supply are in the same state or in the same union territories. Now we'll see what is the place of supply. Location of supply is my registered office or where from I'm supplying as a warehouse. Supply of services, where the location of the supplier and the place of supply is in the same state or the same union territory. Then it will be considered as an intrastate supply. And whatever doesn't fall under the intrastate supply will come under the interstate supply. Now, one of the important part, earlier what used to happen, we used to have that stock transfer and we used to give the form, but we used to pay the central excise duty. Now, all of the supply from one place to another place is completely different. Every state is supposed to get their revenue based on the consumption pattern. One of the major part of the GST, when we talk on what is the sea change, earlier different types of taxing was there. So tax was getting paid or rather collected where it generates, where from the goods are manufactured or goods are supplied. Whereas in the new GST form, old tax regime to the new tax regime, wherever the goods are getting consumed, that state will get the revenue. So it is the consumption base. When that state where it is consumed, that state will get that revenue. And that is the reason every state, if you are running the business, you will have to take the different registrations. And under one legal entity, you may have the different registrations, which is called the distinct entity. Those two registered persons under the same legal entity is called as a distinct entity. So establishment in India or any other establishment. So suppose I have in India, ABC Limited India and ABC Limited in UK, both are distinct entity. ABC Limited Mumbai branch and ABC Limited Indore branch will have the two different distinct entities. And any supply within the distinct entity is also considered as a taxable supply. And person carrying on the business through a branch. Earlier there was the consignment agents. Earlier there was the CNF agents. So all those CNF agents, all those consignment agents also will be called as a distinct entity, and they will have to take the registration. Section 9 talks on GST to be imposed. Section 9 of CGST Act, Section 5 of IGST Act and Section 7 of UTGST or SGST Act. It is the levy and collection section. So CGST oblique SGST and SGST will be levied on intrastate supply and IGST will be levied on the interstate supply. Supplier will be liable to pay the tax in general. But you know, government is very smart. Whenever they feel they will not be able to control the masses, they leave it to the individuals and they say, recipient of supplies will pay the tax. Like suppose income tax, contractor is supplying to you, they deduct the TDS. Collection of tax is the responsibility of the government, but that has been recasted on the you. Similarly, wherever the masses are there, those all supplies, majority of them is considered as a reverse charge supplies, which will be notified, which will come later. And all import and export transaction, till the time they cross the custom border, all that will be considered as the interstate supply and IGST will be recovered from that. Now you might be seeing it, even on importation. Customs Act, Mr. Manoj has explained you additional, that is the Custom Tariff Act 1975. So IGST will be levied on the import transactions. It means whenever you are importing something, IGST will be levied under Section 7 of the Customs Tariff Act. Now, who is liable to pay? I said every time supplier is liable to pay with certain exceptions. Now, what are those exceptions? We talk about the reverse charges. Fortunately, up to 13th October 2017, even if you are receiving the goods from unregistered supplier who is enjoying the threshold limit, reverse charge was applicable on the goods. Fortunately, there is only one item on the reverse charge on the goods, which is the jaggery, khansari. Otherwise, on goods except these two items, there is no reverse charge. Recipient will be liable to pay in the reverse charge mechanism. Otherwise, provider of service or goods will be liable to pay the tax to the government and recover it from the consumer. So let us see which are there in the reverse charges. If you are talking about the import of service, I will talk the layman's language and not in the legal language. All import of services, taxable services provided or agreed to be provided in any person who is located in non-taxable territory. So your supplier of services is outside India, and if you are receiving the services in India, that is the place of supply is in India, then you will pay on those all services reverse charge at the notified rate. Majority of the rates are 18%. Then the GTA. I remember the GTA was levied first time in 1997, and Laghu Udyog Bharati Supreme Court decision, it was turned down. Then the act was amended in the Finance Act, and this person's liable to pay was mentioned as a recipient. And it continued from that year till now. It has become the part of life. So availed by the GTA to factories, to the societies, to the cooperative societies, any body corporate, any partnership firm, or a casual taxable person, all those will be liable to pay the tax on GTA at the applicable rate. Advocate. Certain categories, one category is their mass, and one category is there is the class. What is that class? Where government is afraid of that class of the advocates. They said advocates don't know, they know only arguing, and we don't want those arguments. Therefore, whatever the services you will be taking from advocates or arbitrary tribunal, then recipient will be liable to pay. Fortunately, here they have made only the business entity who is having a GST registration. So suppose a person is having a divorce case and fighting with the wife in the court, and appointed the advocate is not liable to pay the tax. Sponsorship services, anything which you are sponsoring to body corporate or a partnership firm, recipient will be liable to pay the tax. Renting of any services provided to the government, they know government. What are the class? Again, the one class is the mass. One class I said is the class that is advocate, and another class is government. If you are providing any services to the government or the local body other than specified services, which is renting or the post or the train, aircraft, then only. So government will pay the tax only in the when they are recovering the rent from immovable property. They are taking the money on the speed post. They are taking the money on the train tickets. They are providing on the airport facilities. All those, then government will pay. Otherwise, any services you take from the government, business entity is liable to pay the tax. I have seen when the audit, we were carrying out the GST audit, lot of anomalies are there in the government services. What is the government services availed or provided by the government? Let us be very clear. Whatever the duties are there, sovereign duties, which is specified in the Article 243W. Those are sovereign duties which each state government is supposed to do or each central government is going to provide. That duty bound to provide under the articles, constitution. On those services, no tax is payable. If you are having a court fee, you are paying the tax, that is the court fee. No, it is not called the service. But if you are availing the services of ROC, if you are availing the services of DGFT or such services from the central government or the state government or the local body, on all that services, business entity is liable to pay. And unfortunately, I have seen in the audit that people are perhaps forgetting the site and don't pay the tax. Tomorrow, that tax liability, along with 100% penalty and interest at the rate of 18% will come. Services provided or agreed to be provided by a director of the company or a body corporate, or the company of a body corporate, who is liable to pay is the company or a body corporate. Now you might have seen one of the worst decisions of the AAR, advance ruling. And that is the reason I always stop now advising people to go on the advance ruling, because it is just number of advance ruling you will say it has been issued without application of mine. Now there is a director of the company who is the employee. There is an employee-employer relationship. And still, what is asked, company is asked to pay the reverse charge, which is not liable to be paid. You might have seen director's remuneration, which is reported in the balance sheet. Number of companies have levied demand notices were issued on the companies, even in the earlier law. So what is the distinction has to be made? There are the two types of directors. One director we call as an independent director, and another director is the employee director. If you are the employee director, how you have to identify whether it is the employee director or other category? Best is start with the resolution. Any director's remuneration has to be decided in the special general meeting, that is the special resolution in the AGM. His remuneration is decided there, the check of that. The second check, Form 16, you are supposed to deduct the income tax. And they are not supposed to get the sitting fees. So any person who is getting the sitting fees, only in that case reverse charge liability will come. Any remuneration paid to the director. Now, one of the thing may be also there, that ABC director of XYZ company may be the chartered accountant, and he may be providing the services to the company after necessary declaration under section 217 of Old Companies Act, or taking necessary care, he is providing the independent services. Whether that amount will be attracted to the reverse charge or not, unfortunately, law is not clear on that, because wording is gross receipt. But in one of the open house in earlier tax regime, in the service tax era, it was talked about if he is giving the services in the professional capacity as a chartered accountant, then reverse charge will not come. But people are avoiding that and say, let company pay and let avail that take credit. I don't want that headache and after litigation. Insurance agent, it has started in way back in 1998. Because all insurance agents, they cannot cover, and that is the reason reverse charge liability on the insurance company, recovery agent to the banking company was made under the reverse charge. Now this is also one of the subject which is on the legal prone, litigation prone. Services by way of transportation of goods by the vessel, that is we call as the ocean freight, sea freight, because air freight for exportation is exempt, And air freight for importation is not covered under the reverse charge. But sea freight is covered under the reverse charge. Now, one of the aspects which you might have seen in the Gujarat High Court decision, I really respect that decision. Though it is challenged in the Supreme Court, and let us see what happens in the Supreme Court. It was said, even it was the case in the ocean freight was there in the service tax regime also. And it has continued in the reverse charge, GST regime as a reverse charge. When I am importing the goods on a CIF basis, or I am liable to pay the custom duty on the CIF basis, where I am availing the services, and I am paying the value of the goods and I am paying the custom duty, you cannot levy the service tax GST on that. That is the judgment which Gujarat High Court has given. Now let us see what happens here. But ocean freight is the most litigation pro, so right decision one has to take considering the volumes. IPR, that is the music author, music composer, photographer, artist. They are getting paid of their copyright. All that recipient of service, that is the publisher or music company or producer, will have to pay. Again, the rent a cab. Earlier in the service tax regime, all of us were liable to pay under the reverse charge. But that was not the case, or that is not the case in the GST regime. People are still continuing the old habits. They are paying the reverse charge also, unfortunately, and taking the credit that too. Who are liable to pay here that on this? Which is, I am giving you in the separate chart for this, taxes when you are engaging. Security services has come from 1st January 2019. Earlier it was not there. Though earlier it was in service tax, it was there as a manpower supply. But it was not there if you are supplying security services, and any recipient thereto is liable to pay service tax, except the difference is service provider, if it is the private limited company, body corporate, public limited company, then service provider will tax. Otherwise, who is liable to pay is the recipient of the service is liable to pay, which is from 1st January 2019. Now let us see the reverse charge. Recipient of service is the body corporate. GST is charged by the service provider 5% or 12%, 5% when he is not availing the ITC, or 12% when he is availing the ITC. No RCM is applicable. But if service provider is non-corporate, that is the private limited company, proprietorship company, AOP or others, or cooperative societies or trust, then RCM is applicable at the rate of 5% without ITC. So this chart for the rent-a-cab, everybody. And if you are availing the services of electronic e-com operator, that is Ola or Uber, Ola Uber will charge you service tax and you are not liable to pay the tax. Means on the reverse charge mechanism. So we talk about who is liable to pay the tax, who is supplying the goods or services, which tax he is liable to pay. If he is supplying the intrastate, CGST and SGST. If he is supplying the interstate, then IGST. If he is importing, then IGST. If he is exporting, then only also IGST. And what rate who is liable to pay is the service provider, except reverse charge applicability, as I explained. I told you certain threshold limit is also given. that if the person is less than the turnover, specified turnover, earlier it was 20 lakhs, those is the option to on them to whether to take the registration or not, and they are not liable to pay. But there is a big gap of a big chunk of a retailers or any service provider or any good any person whose turnover on aggregate basis, aggregate turnover means all India basis turnover, pan India basis turnover, up to his turnover of the previous year all India basis should not be more than 1.5 crore. If he does not have 1.5 crore turnover, less than turnover in the preceding year, then he can opt for composition levy. And if he has got 10 registration, all 10 registrations he has to take the composition levy. The one of the basic condition of composition levy is I have to intimate every year, financial year, to my tax authorities that I am opting under the composition scheme or I am not opting for the composition scheme. But once I opted, it will be valid for 1 year. You can't change in between. Once you opted the composition scheme, you will not recover any tax from your customers. And you will not avail any ITC, that is the input tax credit, on the supplies received by you. So no input tax credit will be applicable. And of course, if you wrongly claim anything, taxes and penalty will be applicable. Who can opt for this composition scheme? First condition, as I said, the turnover of aggregate turnover, pan India turnover is less than 1.5 crore. Manufacturers will pay. Earlier manufacturers where only it was applicable only for the goods. So if you are having a services, providing the services other than restaurant services, no composition levy. Now there may be some case that the manufacturer also provides some after sales service. So it is the service portion is also included and they were deprived of. Government thought over that difficulty and amended. They said your turnover should not cross, service turnover should not cross 10% of your total turnover or rupees 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. So then such manufacturer, even for services, they can pay and opt for composition tax. Restaurant services will pay 5% under the composition levy. And other suppliers who are not manufacturer suppliers, even as a sales and services, up to 5 lakhs turnover of services or 10% of the turnover, whichever is higher, they will charge 1%, that is 0.5% and 5%. Why 0.5%? Not I'm talking 1%. I'm talking 0.5% of CGST and 0.5% of GST because those composition dealers will not be able to supply interstate of goods and services. So we know what they cannot do. They cannot supply services interstate as mentioned up, except for that other than restaurant. So if any service exporter is there, for him no composition levy is there. He cannot opt for that. He is out of the scheme. Supply of goods intrastate. No interstate supplies. So no sooner. Now what has happened, you see the problem lies here. As I am a small trader, I don't know much of the law. Even my professional chartered accountant friends, cost accountant friends were learning phase. I opted composition levy and then I got the order from the SEZ unit. I supplied to that. No sooner I could supply to the SEZ unit, which is the interstate supply, I cannot opt for composition, and whole of I have to pay the tax on earlier supplies also. Therefore, this is very important to understand. Supply of goods through electronic commerce operator. Then this scheme will not be operated. Suppose you are supplying the goods through Amazon or Flipkart or any other e-commerce operator, then you cannot opt for composition levy. And authority is given to the GST Council. I'll just talk on the registration procedure. I don't think I'm going to deal on the registration. Composition levy will not be applicable to casual and non-resident taxable person. No interstock and branch movement, no interstate supply. Not engage in manufacture of goods as no EP is notified under that. And he has to declare on the invoice that he is under composition levy. So all the composition dealer will have to write on the invoice issued under the composition scheme. Now, one of the major aspect, if we know heart of the GST, if you know meaning and scope of supply, if you know place of supply, and of course, time of supply, because you are liable to pay the tax accordingly, then you know 90% of the GST. Then input tax credit, and then returns and refunds. So I will be dealing more on this to understand the meaning and scope of supply, place of supply and time of supply. My majority of the lecture will go in explaining these topics. So we are talking about GST has to be paid on supply, not on sale, not on manufacture. All earlier terminology you have already forgotten, so forget it, don't learn it again. Now, whatever you supply, you have to know whether it is a goods or it is a service or it is a composition thereof. Check the meaning and scope of supply. They could not define in section 2 as a definition of supply. Therefore, a more exhaustive section has been given to meaning, understand the meaning of supply, because on that you have to pay the tax. Before we go on that, we need to understand certain terms. What is the goods? So which are the goods on which we are supposed to pay the tax, and which are the goods which is excluded? Goods means every kind of movable property other than money and securities. So fortunately money is out. Otherwise every exchange and withdrawal of cash from bank or payment of cash there, that might have been applicable. Securities, that is share, debentures, all those derivatives, those are covered under securities under the Securities Act. All the goods including movable property. Actionable claim, fortunately in section 7, they have included only actionable claim of only for lottery and betting. Growing crops, grass and things attached to or forming part of the land, which are agreed to be severed or before supply or under the contract of supply. Now the typical example I'll give, and Suppose there is a mango season now, mango has ripened, or rather mango, number of raw mango has come on the tree, and as a farmer you don't want to do that. So what you do? You enter the contract with some of the fruit supplier and say, whatever the fruits are there on the crop, you assess and give me the money on that. If that contract is made, which is covered, agreed to be severed before supply, or a contract of supply, is also covered under the definition of goods. Now you see the services definition. Anything other than goods, excluding money and securities, including activity of conversion of money or cash or any other form, currency or denomination to another form. So, exchange, if you are converting from rupees to dollar, that is also covered under the services. So anything of goods and services which you have covered other than money and securities, other than cash, all that and immovable properties will be covered under the goods and services, and on that tax will be applicable. Now who is the supplier? Because supplier is liable to pay the tax in relation to any goods or services or both, shall mean the person supplying the said goods or services or both, or shall include an agent, as I said, consignment agent, CNF agent, or on his behalf, such supplier who is supplying the goods, all those will be considered as a supplier and he will be liable to pay the tax. But when? What is the essence? When you have to understand the meaning and scope of the supply, essence is supplier should supply goods or services or both, which is not excluded from the definition, at consideration, on consideration. So consideration is must. If suppose I am giving you the free gift, I am supplying my free gift as a free purse, goggle to my lady friend, and not asking any consideration, then it will not be treated as a taxable supply. It is not considered as a supply itself. So consideration is essence. Now what is the definition of consideration? Consideration in relation to supply of goods and services or both includes, you see the vast definition, any payment made or to be made, whether in kinds or otherwise, money or otherwise, in respect to, in response to, in inducement to. Whether by recipient or any person, whether recipient pays or any other person on behalf of recipient pays. All that will be considered as a consideration. In monitoring value, that is a forbearance of an act, to do an act. In response to, in inducement to, in respect to such services, any amount is given to you. Non-compete fee is given to you. Or instead of non-competing, you do certain business that is given to you. That will be considered as a consideration. What will not be considered as a consideration here? Subsidy is given by the state government, or you have paid the deposit. You have paid the rent deposit. That is not treated as a supply. That is not considered as a consideration. Now, supply can be of a goods or services. Two different types of goods, two different types of services mixed together. Many multiple choices can be there, and that is called composite supply. Now, what is a composite supply? You see, very nice definition they are made. Supply made by the taxable person to the recipient, which consists one or more two goods or services, or any combination thereof, which is naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business, and out of that one is the principal supply. Then it is the composite supply. Now the best example of a composite supply is a works contract. You are providing the repair services. You are providing the repair services and also providing the spares along with the repair services. Installation and commissioning, or you are supplying the goods as well as services inherent part of that after sales services. Then it will be considered as a composite supply, and what rate will be applicable, whether it will be treated as a goods or whether it will be treated as a service, will decide based on the nature of principal item of that. Suppose I am supplying erection and commissioning installation along with the AC. So AC, supply of AC with the installation is the composite service, and rate will be applicable to AC, whatever the rate is applicable for a whole of the total amount, because it is a composite contract, composite value, and a composite supply and principal supply is the AC. The mixed supply is one of the best example I can say, which is not naturally bundled. You are going to the McDonald's and taking a combo pack of a Coke with burger. And if it is offered at one price, a combo price, then it will be considered as a mixed supply, and what will be applicable, whatever is the highest rate applicable, that will be applicable. Now let us understand what is the meaning and scope of supply. We said it has to be goods or services. For a consideration, we define by way of a composite service, supply or a mixed supply, whether it will be treated as a goods or services based on the nature of the supply which you have made. But let us understand what is the meaning and scope of the supply, which is mentioned in section 7, and there are 3 schedules to that. We'll go on, deliberate on each point. Supply of goods or services, including in all forms of supply. Now this is what is important. All forms of supply is the sale. Transfer of title takes place. Transfer, stock transfer will come there and tax will be applicable. Barter, you give me X and in turn I will give you Y, that is barter. So both will be treated as independent supply. Exchange, I talk about exchange is the service of a money exchange. License, rental, lease or disposal, made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course of furtherance of the business. So first thing, whatever you are going to do it should be in the course of business or for furtherance of the business. If it is not, if it is not in the furtherance of the business, then it will not be treated as a supply. Importation of services for a consideration, whether or not for furtherance of the business or in the course of business. So even as an individual capacity, you have brought certain services, imported certain services, then it will be also taxable. It will be treated as a supply and it will be taxable under the reverse charge. And this is one of the important part. Activities specified in the Schedule 1. Now let us see what is Schedule 1. Made or agreed to be made with without consideration. We talked in the 2 minutes back, for having a supply, what you should have, the supply of goods or services for consideration. But Section 7 gives you one exception. Those exceptions which have been given in Schedule 1 of Section 7, except those everywhere you need a consideration, then only it will be considered as a supply. Now, which are those in Annexure 1, Schedule 1 we will be talking about. Then Schedule 2 talks about whether it will be treated as a goods or services. And third schedule talks about it will neither be treated as a goods or services. Very interesting. Let us see those schedules. Now the Schedule 1. Oh. What will be following shall be treated? What will not be treated as a goods or services? Activities or transaction as I told you, Schedule 3. Or any activities undertaken by the central government or the state government under their sovereign capacity or as recommended by the GST Council. Those will be treated, and government has got the powers what to treat as a goods or services, or what is to be treated as neither goods or nor services. So you need not go on the definition. You need to only see Schedule 1, Schedule 2 and Schedule 3 for the better clarification. No law dictionary is required for that. Activities to be treated as a supply, even though made without consideration. Permanent transfer or a disposal of a business asset where input tax credit has been availed on such asset. Let us take a case. You have got the laptop, you have got the car. It was a business asset. You have got the inventory. And from that inventory or from that car or from that laptop you are given, you are availed the input tax credit and given free of cost to your employees or anybody, even to the poor charitable institutes. Even in that case, it will be considered as a taxable supply. Earlier, anything which you might have given without consideration to the charitable institutes was not treated as a supply, but in the GST era, that is treated as a GST. Supply of services or both between related person or between distinct person when made in the course or furtherance of the business. Let us take a case, your wife is having a business and you are the chartered accountant. You are providing the services of a free income tax return filing to your wife. That is a taxable supply, you will have to pay the tax thereon. You are supplying the goods from one branch to another branch, having a different registrations. That is called the distinct entity. It is always without consideration, and therefore it is a taxable supply. Employees are also treated as a related person when you see the Section 25 related person definition. So even employee or related person, any gift anything which you are giving to the employees have to be seen bisected into the binocular. And gifts up to 50,000 is not covered under supply, but gift more than 50,000 is covered under the supply. Now let us take a case. You have a lot of employee schemes. You have the employee benefits. Earlier there was the fringe benefit tax. That was gone. Now by this fringe benefit tax has come under the below the by another method. So all employee compensation you will have to revisit with the three angles. One angle, whether it is a part of employee-employer relation. If you are supplying the goods or you are receiving the goods or services from the employee in a contractual capacity as an employee and employer relationship, all that you will cover under the Form 16. So taxable salary you calculate including perks. That will not cover under this. What will cover? Gifts more than 50,000. And what is not covered as the employee-employer relationship. Now employee providing services to the employer is out of this coverage of GST. But employer providing services to the employee, even of the facilitation of canteen, transport, free of cost, that is considered as a taxable supply, except mentioned in the law. Law doesn't say, Factories Act doesn't say that you provide the free canteen, free food. It says that you provide the space for canteen. Of course, it is a separate state law, different laws are applicable. In Maharashtra, as per the Factories Act, you are not supposed to provide food, but you are supposed to provide the space for food. So suppose you are providing the food free of cost to the employee, which is not included as a part of your perquisite, then it is a free supply without consideration, and therefore it is a taxable supply, will be covered under Schedule 1. You cannot say every day you are giving gift to the employee. Supply of goods to the agent or consignment agent, to your, when you are the principal, all that, even though without consideration, it will be taxable supply. Import of services by a taxable person from a related person or from any of his other establishment outside India in the course or furtherance of the business. So here, only when without consideration you are receiving some services from the parent body. Now one of the best case I will give you here, which is happening across in the multinational companies. You have the SAP as an overall India basis, all world basis. And all that cost is incurred by your parent body in US or a Germany or a Singapore. They don't debit anything to you, it is a free supplied to you. Even that, it will be considered a taxable supply and you are liable to pay. And one case has happened in Pune. Those things was revealed in the correspondences in email or MIS, and used crores of liability was levied, and that has been confirmed. It is one of the things you don't go to the Supreme Court and High Court and dispute whether this is the goods or services. I appreciate of the government to reduce the intention of reducing the litigations. They said whether you like it or dislike it, I say this is good, so this is good. I say this is service, so this is service. So let us see which are those. Any transfer of title in goods is supply of goods. If you are making a transfer of title in the goods, it will be always supply of goods. If you are giving the right in the goods of undivided shares in the goods without transfer of title, you are giving your right, then that will be treated as a supply of service and a rate will be attracted as per service. Any transfer of title of goods under an agreement which stipulates the property in the goods shall pass in future date. Hire purchase. Let us take a case of vehicle on the hire purchase. You are committed to give the delivery after some period. So it is the hire purchase of the goods, and now what is the value thereof? Whatever the value you recover, even the deferred payment as interest on that, whatever the rate is applicable, goods rate of the applicable on the goods, that will be applicable on such hire purchase transactions. So be aware of taking the hire purchase, any goods on the hire purchase. It will be very costly to you. Any lease and tenancy of easement right is a supply of service. Similarly, any lease or letting out the building, including the commercial, industrial, residential, or business and commerce, whether wholly or partly used, is supply of service. Any treatment or process which is applied to another person's goods is supply of service. Let us take a case. You have been given the goods for the electroplating, and he does the electroplating and he supplies you the goods back. He is charging you electroplating charges, that is the supply of service, because he is doing the electroplating on your goods. Goods forming part of assets or business transferred or disposed of under any direction of a person carrying the business, whether or not for the consideration, is the treatment of supply of goods. Now, we will very typical example. Earlier, what used to happen in the VAT regime? I have the stock. I have taken the ITC thereof, set off thereof, and I have the cloth shop and I use for my personal consumption. Not for consideration. Even that would be considered that supply of goods. Goods held or used for the purpose of business, put to any private use or made available to any person for use other than purpose of business, whether or not for consideration. Suppose you have the assets and you are given for somebody else or using it without consideration. That will be considered as a supply of goods. But since it is the without consideration, whether it will attract as a definition of supply or not, that is a different part. Goods forming part of asset of any business carried on by him before he ceases to be a business to a taxable person. If I close my shop, let us say I am the practicing cost accountant and I have my 65 age, I have my laptops, I have my furniture, I have taken the ITC. It was my business assets. I used to take a depreciation. And I close my shop. Even on that, I'll have to pay back of all whatever the benefits I have given in terms of the rules. Except slum sale. Suppose you are transferring your asset to other on the slum sale basis. Not as an individual asset, business, you are selling it as a going concern. Then slum sale will not be attracted as a goods or services. Business is carried on a personal representative who is deemed to be a taxable person. This will be called as a supply of services. I will not read because all of you are aware in the negative list of services. They are just brought and copied paste from that. Those which are not covered under the definition of services because immovable property were not part of the goods. So if you are renting out, it is a service and it will be treated. So renting an immovable property is treated as a service, is a taxable service. All agreeing to do act, forbidden to act, tolerate to act, all those things as covered as a supply to service and tax will be applicable. Worse contract. Now, fortunately, worse contract has been rightly defined in the GST. It is only when transfer of goods and services in composite supply it happens. Only relating to immovable property, then only it will be treated as worse contract, otherwise not. Supply by way of as a part of a service or any other manner whatsoever goods, food, that would be treated a restaurant. You are serving the food, you are serving the preparing the food and serving it. It is considered as a service. Supply of goods to the unincorporated association or body or a person to a member. AOP is transferring their product on a consideration to other members. That will be considered as the goods. One of the best section which I like. These are the things even though you don't go to the any litigation. Government says it is neither the goods nor the services. Don't break your head. So providing any services provided by the employee to the employer in the course or in relation to his employment is neither the goods nor services. Services by the court. I always used to say earlier in my lectures, services performed by the members of parliament, member of state legislation, member of panchayat, member of elected members of municipalities. I used to say jokingly that they don't perform the service, so no service. But nowadays in the COVID period, I will not dare to say that. They are the real warriors. Even in such critical period, all of them are fighting for the people to protect and ensuring stay at home. But they are performing their sovereign duties as laid by the Constitution. And that is the reason this is services provided by them. Any remuneration received by them is not treated as a service. Services of funeral, burials, all those, at least सुख से जाइए आप, उसको भी नहीं है. Actionable claim other than lottery betting and gambling. So only lottery betting and gambling will be considered as a service. Otherwise, everything will be considered as a out of supply. Like an insurance claim is actionable claim. It will be out of supply, out of scope. This is also one of the best amendment which has been made. Supply of goods from a place of a non-taxable territory to another place in non-taxable territory. If goods are not entering, let us say I have ordered to Brazil and I have directly sent the goods, imported the goods from Brazil, but without bringing in India, I have sold it to the China. That I have not done in India, so that is neither treated as a goods or supply service and not happen in India. Now we talk on place of supply. Once we understand the meaning and scope of supply, place of supply and time of supply, place of supply determines, because location of supplier we have seen, recipient we have seen, now we will see the definition thereof again, and place of supply which has been given in section 9, 10 and 11 of IGST Act. For services, it has been given in section 12 and 13 of IGST Act. That will decide whether it is an intrastate or interstate. And based on that tax liability you will pay. So what is important when you understand this is the address of delivery. Where you are delivering the goods means the address of the recipient of the goods and services or both indicated on the tax invoice issued by the registered person for delivery of such goods or services. So you are going to deliver your goods and services at that place that is called as the address for delivery. I'll just keep those. One of the important definition I will cover, location of recipient of service. Where supply is received at a place of business on which registration has been obtained, or location of such business premises is appearing in the registration. Then that is the location of the recipient. Where the supply is received at the place other than place business of the registration, then recipient of service will be the place where the fixed establishment is there. If you are receiving the service or supply more than one places, then where is the fixed establishment or the location of fixed is directly concerned to the receipt of that supply. Or in absence of that is the place of residence of the recipient. Now, who is the recipient? Who is liable to pay the consideration? Very important definition. What is the location? From where you are supplying, that is the location. If you are supplying from one or two places, then fixed establishment of your business. If you are making supplies from one or two establishment, then which is directly concerned to that delivery, similar, or in absence, recipient. Now let us go on the important part, section 10. When supplier is moving the goods, that is the movement of goods are involved, whether by the supplier or recipient or any other person. What will be the place of supply? Because I told you, GST is the consumption base. Wherever consumption is going to take place, that government is going to collect the tax. That government will get the tax. Location of goods at the time on which the movement of goods terminates the delivery to the recipient. So wherever you are going to terminate the delivery, that is a place of, let's say you are going to terminate the delivery from Pune to Aurangabad as a destination, then Aurangabad, where your delivery is expected to terminate, that will be the place of supply. Now, one of the things that happened, the example. You have received the X works order in Pune to supply the goods to Indore. And you have written the place of supply, place of delivery is Indore. Even though your payment terms are X works, so ownership is transferred, title is transferred at Pune. But you have mentioned the address of delivery in Indore, then Indore delivery will be terminated and that will be the place of supply, and then interstate supply will be applicable, IGST will be applicable. Without any movement of goods, that is always is very important every day happening is bill to ship to transaction. Location where goods are located at the time when delivery takes place. So, where the delivery is going to take place, That will be the location of supply. Now I'll give you the very important case. You have received the order from Bajaj and you are located at Rohtak, that is Haryana, to manufacture the mold or manufacture the dyes, and from that dye you supply and dye ownership remains with the Bajaj. Then he makes the invoice of a dye without any movement of goods and he bills you in Maharashtra. Still he will charge you CGST and HGST because delivery is going to take place only at a Rohtak. So Haryana CGST and HGST will be charged, and if you do not have a branch in Haryana, that will become the cost to you. Where goods are delivered before or during the movement, either by a transfer of a documents of a title of a goods or otherwise. Let us say I am at Maharashtra, I am billing to Mumbai, that is Pune to Mumbai, X to Y. I am X at Pune supplying the goods to B at, rather billing address is my Bombay address, and based on his direction I am supplying to directly delivering to C. So my transfer of title happens in Maharashtra. So third person who asked me to deliver, who is the third person? In the case here B. He asked me to deliver to C. So principal place of business of a third person will be important to charge whether it is an intrastate or interstate. Now, one of the best example I can give you here. You have received the order from UK to supply the goods to Indore. You are in Pune. And you are going to receive in foreign exchange. But where your goods are going to be terminated at Indore, so place of supply will be in Indore, even though I am charging you IGST at your, because it is the you are outside the country. Because goods are not moving out of India. So goods imported into India, location of the importer, and good exported is location outside India. Now let us talk about supply of services, section 12. Section 12 deals with place of supply of services. I think what I will do is I'll stop it here and I will take question and answer till this time. And tomorrow I will start with the balance part of a time of supply and this. I know I'm going very slow, but I want to give you practical cases and practical examples, which is day to day, there are the issues. Since I have 12 minutes to left, I will take the question answer session. Go on. The first question is, Shailesh Shetty sir has asked, what about lunch provided to the employee who comes on holiday? Of course, it is supplied by you, whether with the consideration or whether not consideration. If you are not mentioning this in the part of your perks, then it will be a taxable supply. Otherwise, it will, if it is a part of perks, then you will be paying income tax. Your employee will pay income tax on that. Of course, I'm going to take this in very detailed way in case tomorrow afternoon, immediately. In case of overcharging in the name of GST, where can customer register his complaint for redressal? As often we see the transaction where we pay the price at a particular product exceeding its MRP print on it. No sooner it is happening that there is a legal metrology department, wage and measure department. Nobody is supposed to charge the tax exceeding the MRP. Even it is a part of a criminal case, it is a consumer case also you can file on. And you can lodge the complaint with 3 forums. Suits of whether recovery of notice pay from employee will be treated as a supply. Answer is yes. There are a number of case studies for that. Jamal Bhai, whether recover, there exist lot of doubts regarding taxability under GST on the remuneration received by the partner from the partnership. Kindly enlighten us with the exact legal position in this regard. Let me tell you, partners are getting the appropriation of profit in terms of the income tax provision. They are not getting salary, though you are debiting to the partner's salary in the P&L account. Therefore, in my opinion, no reverse charge is payable on that. No tax is payable by employee also on that. They are not the employee. As an export supplies are classified as the zero-rated supplies under GST, we need to issue a proper GST invoice, bill of supply. Of course, if it is the GST invoice, bill of supply to the customer would be sufficient. No, because zero-rated supply has to be with the tax. It is a taxable goods, and therefore tax invoice is must. Shailendra Bhai, Manish Swami, RCM is applicable in case of slum sales or not? No tax is applicable. It is not covered under the meaning and scope of supply. Shailendra ji, why installation of AC is not the worst contract service? You see, it is not the immovable goods. AC is not immovable. The definition of immovable goods was well specified by the Supreme Court in number of judgment, but more so landmark judgment was the Jawahar Sawmill. It was talking about if you can remove the goods in the original condition, when it is attached to the earth or immovable property is embedded in the immovable property, then it will not be immovable property, it will be movable property. But it cannot be disassembled in the same form, in the original form, then, and that is the reason AC is not worse contract service. Will you please elaborate on the recent circular issued on 13/12, rent a cab but bus transport service to employee to and fro? I'll be covering this topic tomorrow in totality. Because the employee related this, number of violations are there and number of misunderstandings are there. That is the reason I have taken this separate topic which I will be covering tomorrow. Kindly don't miss tomorrow's lecture. Is any amount recovered from ex-employee of doing fraud, GST supply? Anything you recover as a breach of contract, which is the tolerate to act, is covered as a service and you have to pay the tax at 18%. Preeti ji, is GST applicable on interest payable on balance of sundry debtors? Delayed payment is covered under the definition of consideration, and therefore GST will be applicable on the goods which has been supplied. Mr. Niketan Duma, supply of service to outside India sister concern company from India will be treated as the export of service or cover in a distinct entity to disqualify export of service. One thing, what is needed for the export of service? One is location of a supplier is in India and place of supply is outside India. Money is received in foreign currency, then only it will qualify as the export of service, otherwise not. Export to AC is treated as a direct supply or a deemed export under zero rated supply. It is not zero rate deemed export. It is a direct supply, that is we call as a zero rated supply. And it is treated at par with the physical exports. Next. All these questions were answered, but any other chat method, anything in the chat? No. Otherwise, we'll continue the next topic. We have 6 minutes left, so we'll completely use that time. Yes, recording is going on. Voice is cracking. Okay, we understand. I'll send you the PPT as well as my video. Umeshji, you will get it. Yeah, I will be explaining it tomorrow, sir. So I think I have covered for today. Place of services, location of services, that is the place of supply, and this I will just cover within fast, and then I will concentrate on some case studies, and then input tax credit, returns and refund tomorrow. So let us start tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining. Please join me tomorrow again so that major subjects of GST will be covering as a refresher course. Thank you very much.